Douglas, before you speak, I want to play a clip of Nigel Farage talking about this and then come to you.
Commentary and behaviours that do not align with the bank's purpose and values have been demonstrated. So the bank has a series of values. The bank has a series of political positions. And as for purpose, well, I thought the purpose of companies was to act ethically, yes, of course, but to return to their shareholders dividends. And in this case, folks, do you know who the shareholders are? It's you and me.
All right, Douglas, your view of this.
Well, first of all, it's always delicious when a socialist sets up a binary in the way that Grace just did. If there's something bad in capitalism, the only alternative is socialism. Of course it is. It always is for socialists, isn't it? But it is lovely hearing Grace
She's even grinning
defending.
at that. You've even got a grinning in self-awareness.
I'm deliberately not interrupting.
Grinning in self-awareness. Go on, Douglas.
And it's lovely hearing Grace defend Coutts Bank. It's a terrific position for a socialist to be in. Look, I would put it this way.
I don't believe Coutts Bank should exist, but there we go.
The most important thing in this is the old shoe on the other foot scenario, isn't it, Piers? Here's a good example. I mean, Grace was a supporter of Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn led a very racist period in the Labour Party's history, where female Jewish MPs were hounded out of the party, and the Equality and Human Rights Commission found that the Labour Party had a serious problem with racism. Now, here's the thing. I don't agree with anything that Jeremy Corbyn believes, probably no more than I agree with anything that Grace believes. But if Coutts Bank, I don't know if Mr Corbyn would bank with Coutts, but whoever he banked with, if they said that because of Mr Corbyn's association with racists and racism and terrorists and so on, he shouldn't be allowed to have a bank in the UK, I would defend him to the hilt. Because I know where this goes. The Canadian government, ultra-dippy Trudeau in Canada, has presided over a system in the last 18 months in which if you're an opponent of his government and actually come out and protest, as people did last year, you can get debanked. Just think about that again for a moment. We were talking about protests earlier, that if you protest against the government, you can lose the right to bank in a cashless economy. So here's the thing.
Wrong.
We know where this leads.
We
know where this leads.
How
and
could
I
we
would
deliver
suggest
a
that
system?
anyone who believes in freedom, including freedom of the press, freedom of speech, and much more, should care
How might we
deeply when their
deliver an
political
economy in
foes,
which
even when their
everyone had the right
political
to a bank
foes
account?
are the people, even when their political foes who they would love to kick in the nuts, get it, they should defend those people's
Douglas,
rights.
how might we deliver
have.
an economy in which everyone has the right to a bank account? As a basic human right, you have the right to a bank account. There's no way you can get unbanked.
Yeah, OK, but look.
It's
that
very
clearly
easy.
is. That
is a debate for another day.
It's really not.
Here's what I would say about it.
Pertinent.
Nigel Farage
right
went
now.
out of his way to try and wreck my opening night interview with Donald Trump for this show over a year ago. He literally went to Trump with all the worst things I said about Trump in the previous year and said, look at this, you can't do the interview. And Trump nearly pulled the plug. So I have absolutely zero reason to say anything supportive of Nigel Farage. And he works for a rival network as an amateur broadcaster. Again, that's another reason not to say anything nice about him. However, I've got to say, as a Coutts customer myself, I find this very concerning. And I rang them today to ask. I rang them to ask to speak to them today, but they said they couldn't talk about it because by doing so they would be providing information about a client. I presume they mean Nigel Farage. But here's my point about it. I have what some people consider controversial views. I don't think they're controversial, but I have quite strong views about other things. I'm not quite sure why his are deemed less acceptable in terms of being a banking customer in the UK
Well, do you know why? It's
than
because...
mine. I may not agree with him about a number of things. I'm just not sure why I tick boxes and he doesn't when it comes to a right to have an opinion in what I thought was a free democracy.
It's because the bank
It could be you tomorrow, Piers. It could be Grace the day after, me the day after that.
The bank has deemed, based on an assessment of risk, which it has very professional people to do, it said it is going to potentially, over the long run, damage our profits if we offer this person a bank account. This is a decision that banks make every day. Not to offer bank accounts to low-income customers,
I have to say
close branches. And it's wrong.
Having read the full details that appeared in the Telegraph today, I don't think there are grounds that suit that.
And also,
I don't think
Piers,
there is any damage to
But ultimately, the bank
don't
is able to
forget
do
that
it
Coutts
because it's a
Bank-
private bank.
Don't forget
Let's have public banking.
Don't forget that Coutts lied and briefed a lie to the BBC, which the BBC then reported. They're not interested in the truth at Coutts. I'd get your money out, Piers.
Well, we'll see. I'm going to hope to speak to them and get some answers to some questions. I'm genuinely interested and concerned about how far they take this. How far, my opinion is going to be one day ruled
Why don't
offside.
we nationalise Coutts?
Right, you know what, Grace? We'll come back and talk to you about
full-blown socialism.
I'm glad we're all on the same page on that.
We're going to leave it there.
Time
Douglas,
before.
as always, thank you over in New York. Grace, great to see you twice running. I am spoiled.